Makgeolli is a fermented rice drink. Actually, I learned how to make it in Japan, but it's a Korean drink. I lived in Japan for a while and I had a lot of Korean friends there and they were all into brewing culture. This drink is made out of rice. In this case, sweet rice. You need nuruk. Nuruk is a powdered enzyme combined with grain and yeast. It's dried. This nuruk eats this rice up and makes a drink for you to drink. We need yeast. Here's the yeast. Tools. You're going to need tools. So what you're going to need is a steamer. That steamer is going to have to go into a steaming boiler that you plug into the wall, or if you have one that goes on the stovetop, that's fine too. Also, you're going to need cheesecloth. I have this cheesecloth that I've boiled and sterilized, but I've just touched it. You're also going to need a funnel, some kind of wooden spoon, and of course, something in which to ferment the drink. So, this is rice. This is the rice I talked about. I soaked it for about two hours. We're about to cook it. It's about 1.1 kilograms. It's around 2.5 pounds of rice. And you know, it's okay if you don't have the exact proportions or the exact amounts that I mentioned. What's important about making makgeolli is that it has a special flavor. The flavor of bitter, sweet, and sour. Now, how do you get that? Well, it's a product of all of the different kinds of activity going on while it's fermenting. There's different kinds of bacteria that are formed when the enzyme eats the rice. I'm washing the rice. When you wash the rice, be gentle. Korean people say, "백세 chimmi." That means 100 times, that's 백세, and chimmi is washing rice. Don't break the rice, you need it to stay whole. You want to wash this rice 100 times. So what you can do is drain it after doing this motion and then wash it 99 times more. Be gentle, and when the water gets too dirty and milky, throw it out and fill it up with more water. Time to drain the rice. Let the rice sit for 30 minutes. Now we're going to spread the rice out onto a wet cheesecloth, cook it in a steaming wok on top of the metal steamer for about 1 hour. Spread the rice out. What's important is to make the rice cook evenly. You don't want there to be a smushy part and then a part that is not cooked well. So making it into a rough donut, not a hole in the middle, but just a rough donut shape. Just cover it over with the wet cheesecloth. Cover it up Turn it on maximum high. And we wait. In 60 minutes, we'll have a chewy, sticky rice, in Korean called Kotupap. It's very important to sterilize. So far, I boiled some water and I've put it so that I can put the large container for the fermentation in it. And it's glass, and now it's drying. But next, I have to do something with alcohol. I need to sterilize all these objects. This noodle smells a little bit like it's from a farm. It's the grain and the enzymes and the yeast all together. It's mold. It's mold. Soak it. This is 100 grams of noodle, and I'm mixing it into a liter of water. And it's important to note that this is all the water that I'm going to be mixing with the kotupap after I finish cooking it. This is it. Okay, our kotupap is done. It was 1 hour and then I let it sit for about 7-8 minutes. We're gonna get our fingers a little cold from some ice, and then I'm just going to pick this up. Pick up the cheesecloth. So what's important is that the rice wasn't you need to take away the cheesecloth. It's hot. Use a stick. Stay calm and don't touch it. While you're waiting and it's drying, think about all the people you love with whom you're going to be drinking this delicious beverage. And right now, this and this are going to go here. This is a sterilized bowl. Temperature, temperature, temperature. Why is temperature so important? Well, when we mix the nuruk with water, what happens if the water is too hot? We boil the water to sterilize it. Then we have to let it cool down. Because nuruk has yeast, and the yeast will die. We don't want the yeast to die because the yeast is what breaks down the rice and makes sugar. And then another kind of yeast breaks down the sugar and makes alcohol, and that's what makes this drink so delicious and alcoholic. The kotupap is a chewy, chonduk texture. It's something that you bite into and it squeezes, and then you chew it, and it's really good. We'll take about a third of this. My hands are clean. Put it in. It is cool to the touch. It's been drying. Make sure not to smush it, be gentle. The reason why we didn't want it mushy to begin with when we cook kotupap is because the fermentation will be affected. Everything has to be mixed evenly and in balance. Look for bits to break apart, little bits of nuruk. All of this should feel cool to the touch. If it's too warm, wait a little bit. can already hear it starting to bubble. Break apart the bits and pieces that you find, but be gentle. The floor started shaking with the power of the initial fermentative reaction. I'm adding some yeast. This yeast is already actually contained in the nuruk we used. This helps give it a little bit of a sweet flavor, and it helps it not to be too sour and acerbic. So you can use different amounts. I'm not going to use all this yeast. It's about a handful. I'm going to use about a quarter of this. Spread it nicely. Make sure the yeast is all mixed in. It's a small, tiny powder. This is about the consistency you want. I had to move the camera. The floor was shaking too much. Are you tired of mixing? Well, you have to keep mixing until the yeast is all mixed in. And once it's mixed in, you need to make sure that there are no little bits and pieces for other kinds of bacteria that don't help and might harm your makgeolli. I mixed it. I have my sterilized ladle. It's very important that you do not make a mess or splatter this. So now is when this is going to start fermenting, and the important enzyme in the nuruk is amylase, and amylase is going to break down the starch here and make it into sugar. It's really up to you to try different experiments. The rough proportions I gave were the ones that I like. What matters is the flavor you get in the end. What's very, very important is temperature. I live in a place where it's about 28 degrees Celsius every day. It's important to make sure that this stays somewhere between 21 and 25 degrees Celsius ideally, but 28 has worked for me. I have sanbe. It's a cover, a linen cover. Now when there's oxygen in here, the yeast will use the oxygen to colonize and replicate itself. Once the oxygen is gone, then fermentation happens. And that's what the yeast does when there's no oxygen. I'm going to open it, and then I'm just going to see when I let oxygen in how much bubbling happens to see just how active it is right after. And it's nighttime, so it's a good time because it's cooler here, and that's a good time to start the very first part of the fermentation. It's pretty shady here. It's outside of the hot sun of Hawaii, and there's a fan here, so it's just going to blow on it. It's already bubbling. I see bubbles right now, and in the mornings I check on it. It's like a plant or a little lizard in your house that you find around. One really nice thing is, you stir it in the mornings. Around 5 days from now, I'm going to open it and see what it's like. Sometimes people keep it for longer, but this one I want to open a little sooner. I'm so happy to be able to see it grow and see the yeast bloom and then make a drink for me to drink. Once I get my fan to work, I'll put on the fan. So in the morning, if you wake up a little bit sad, you can just go over to the brewing makgeolli and take a look and see that life is happening inside this jar. It's magic. So once you're ready, you sit it in its little place and you turn on your fan. And look inside. Oh. Make sure to hit the bell button so you know when I have new videos. And please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that like button. Next time, we're going to look at how we stir the makgeolli every morning. And finally, what happens when we get to open it and taste it. Goodbye.